Hey everyone, and welcome to my recap of day 2 in the Karen Reed case. This won't be a recap where I will do a deep analysis. It'll more be my helicopter view of the case because this is the fifth time I try to record it, and I end up just talking for 20 minutes about Hank Breenan. Oh, let me name the ways I despise Hank Breenan. Hank Breenan is a guy who will do anything for a paycheck, it seems like. The guy who cried about trial by ambush have now made a totally new, never heard before theory. First of all, he just dumped a lot of PowerPoints and new cell-brite extraction, claiming that doesn't mean anything at 10:45 on the defense, and claims, well, it's already in the record. No, they need to have time to go through the exhibits, idiot. You just cried trial by ambush. But that's not the bad part. The bad part is Hank Breenan will now, in this case, do something never ever done before. Hank Breenan is going to take Jen McCabe's watch, and then he's going to use the heart rate monitor on the back of it and prove she couldn't have been part of a criminal conspiracy. But Baker, you say, that's stupid. And Baker will tell you it is. Because this is a highly inaccurate heart rate measurement. Yeah, it can show you, okay, you have an elevated heart rate. You have a slow heart rate right now. You need sleep. But this is less accurate than body language, lie detectors, or tool markings in a gun case. What if any expert is going to go on the stand and say, yes, I have methodically worked through every single heart rate and can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, someone who has these heart rate readings could not have done a crime? No one, because it doesn't exist. And I think I've seen those heart rate measurements out there somewhere. I think someone brought them up when they had that. Was she upstairs, downstairs when she got home? I believe there's a big chunk of data missing from around the time where she allegedly was texting Mr. O'Keefe at Fairview. Funny how that works. I'm pretty sure he would never, ever make bullshit up and say, I can use your wristwatch as a lie detector. Well, he did. He also claims that Karen Reed is a genius mastermind who is everything but a genius, because he wants to admit her guilt by picking up her car at John O'Keefe's house and driving it to her parents' house, because she knew the taillight was busted. And they have a clip, he plays these little clips in the middle of it where she said something about Peggy O'Keefe, and she was afraid that Peggy O'Keefe would blame her because the taillight was busted. That's an admission of guilt that Peggy O'Keefe think that Karen Reed did it. I can't understand it. Bev took it back to Chambers. I really hope she won't allow it. But even if she allows that part, how will he square the peg in the round hole and say she's so smart, she takes the murder weapon because she knows this is the murder weapon. She knows after being Section 12 When no one else was suspecting that John O'Keefe was hit by a car, she thought, oh, F. I showed people my busted tail light that proves I did it. I'm going to get this car out of here so they can't find the evidence. She then picks it up at John O'Keefe's house and drives it to her parents' house, where she leaves it out in the open to be picked up by the police 4 or 5 hours later, towed on a tow truck to Canton PD. Between you and me, if it was me who was trying to hide a crime, I would hide the murder weapon. I wouldn't put it right in the house where I'm at. Breenan, if that's your argument, that her picking up her car from a house that she had regularly residency in because she was the girlfriend, because she didn't feel that Peggy O'Keefe, a lady who on the stand said when she saw Karen at the hospital, the first thing and only thing she said to her was, what is she doing here? Karen Reed, who had been dating your son for over a year, who, unlike you, was on speaking terms with your son. Because remember that little kerfuffle you had over the kids where it didn't go that well, even though, oh, I was there all the time. No, you weren't. Karen Reed was more in their life than you were. You sanctimonious. I feel sorry for Peg O'Keefe's loss, but her taking the stand yesterday, first of all, slacking off on her husband, second of all, showing how much she hated Karen. Yes, I understand you can be grieving. I can understand you could be mad. But that wasn't a good look in my eyes. But that was Breenan making up totally new sciences and lying. Let's see if he's allowed to say she's guilty because she took her own car to her parents' house. Carrie Roberts' on cross was worse than anyone had expected. Carrie Roberts had this story about how she never knew anyone, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, and she saw the tail light, and now her and Jen McCabe are the bestest of friends in the world. The only problem is, I don't think Carrie Roberts is a good person under stress. Because while on the stand, under cross-examination, she got totally twisted around. Her story about how her and Jen was at Lang's house, and it was because they were dropping kids off at John O'Keefe's house to go back to Jen's house, but then went to Lang's house, and they didn't know each other that day, but they had trauma together, so they did that. I tried to do a diagram. I couldn't figure out why the hell she would use that story. Just say, I had to go drop something off at Michael Lang's house, and Jen McCabe was there. She lied about going past Fairview 34 that morning. She admitted she lied under oath to a grand jury because no one told her she could go to prison if she lied. She admitted that some of the most crucial evidence from her that she heard Karen Reed in the back of the trooper's car say, search, Hoslong, or hypothermia, whatever she claimed to the grand jury, was a lie. She never heard it. She was told later that that was said at some point. She just misunderstood the question. What did she say? She said, search for hypothermia, Hoslong, hypothermia. That's because she misunderstood Lally's question. Did you hear her say something? Yes, I heard her say. She misunderstood that and in reality thought he said, so you never ever heard anything at the scene, but you and Jen made a timeline with the help of Jen's sister Denise in her kitchen where you got all those holes filled in that you didn't know. And because you did that timeline, you thought I asked you, did you hear Karen Reed say something to Jen? No, I did not. But I know from the timeline I made with Jen McCabe that Karen told her to search something on Google. That was the question. That was the answer she wanted to give on the question. Instead, she said, yes, I heard Karen Read say something about hypothermia. We are on day 2. The first witness changed his statement from last year. In my opinion, made him highly unlikable. I did a short with his face. Kerry Roberts admitted to lying. Then we had Peggy O'Keefe, who was only there to kind of cry on the stand and say she thought Karen was a bitch and that Karen was at the house uninvited, even though there's a video clip out there from an interview with Paulo Balls where he said they had called me. So again, Peg might not have known it, but she also lied on the stand. Fourth, we had Trooper Guarino talk about how you extract the cell phone. We didn't go anywhere with that. He's going to be recalled. So you want the jury to remember in 2 days, 2 weeks, how you extract the Cellbrite report? Or is it to cover up that Trooper Guarino missed 32,907, I think, or 709 text messages in the Sandra Birchmore case, a case he effed up royally? Why did you put him on the stand to talk about his education and not examine his evidence at that point so that he could be cross-examined? I don't get the way he's building his case. Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works. The last guy was the lip-smacking EMT who Section 12 Karen Read at the hospital. The guy who said she looked up and say something about Kerry in a smug way. That's what he said during the first trial. I don't want to go through all of his testimony because it's just another townie who's protecting townies. He never ever mentioned that smug way until they were blaming Karen. There's no report of it. Normally you would put in, especially someone who is being Baker acted, their mood swing. They didn't find it necessary in this one. But yeah, he can clearly remember everything today because like every other defense witness, my memory is better 2 years later than it was at the scene. Bullshit. That was day 2, 13 minutes of video. Most of it comes down to people lie too effing much in this courtroom. And worst of all, Breenan is dishonest. That's probably the best way to describe it. He should be admonished by Bev today, again, for dropping new evidence. 2, for trying to imply that taking your car that's not considered evidence shows that you knew you had done a crime, even though you are then stupid enough to leave it in your driveway where the troopers will find it. Never take a picture of the damage to your car, tow it to the Sally Port where they will find all the evidence they need that wasn't at the scene at Fairview 34.